In Chapter 21, the leaders of every kingdom and major organization in Azatura heard of the destruction of the kingdom of Tretera the very next day. The news centered on the person responsible for the massive tree that had suddenly grown and destroyed the royal palace. The mistress of nature, a being of legend to humans, after seeing the capital of the infernal empire and the kingdom of Tretera razed to the ground, however, they realized that the evil queens of Ither were no longer the stuff of legend. Thus, the major organizations that made up the Three-City Alliance estate were now at a large round table in the Informations Guild building with their subordinates to discuss the news that had sent humans in Azatura into a panic. The leader of the Hunters Guild City, Glyph Nestle, the leader of the Sorcerers Guild City, Udel Luana, the leader of the Merchants Guild City, Finn Amos, and the leader of the Informations Guild under the Hunters Guild City, Leah Maley. Leah, the head of the Informations Guild, opened the meeting with the information she received. This is what the Information Guild knew. Leah continued by detailing the recent events in the kingdom of Tretera. The kingdom's devastation, the major battles fought on the palace's grounds, the sudden appearance of a massive tree that leveled the entire castle, and the rapid transformation of the once fertile soil of the kingdom into a barren land in a very short period of time. The three leaders listening to Leah felt like they were hearing a make-believe story, but they all know it was real. So, you're saying that there are other strong beings other than the mistress of nature that destroyed the palace. And a phoenix was seen with the evil queen. Finn of the Merchants Guild was trying to wrap his mind around what he just heard. And a dragon showed up. Not only that, but the king was on the verge of dying and most nobles in the capital were nearly annihilated. Leah corrected Finn. After the mistress of nature made the gigantic tree, according to Palace's staffs who survived, a woman riding a basilisk appeared and the two fought. They said this woman had the power of the wind, and she was the one who created a storm that destroyed some parts of the castle. And the strongest general of the kingdom of Tretera was also there. His target first was the mistress of nature, but the dragon stopped him and won. So, in a nutshell, the dragon was on the mistress of nature's side. Glyph of Hunters Guild concluded. Yes, Leah nodded. It appears that the kingdom had kidnapped and butchered dragon younglings. That's why the dragons were there. Glyph clutched his head while his elbows were resting on the table. Why would the kingdom of Tretera do that? Maybe because the dragons never leave their domain and do not mess with humans, that humans had forgotten those viscous beasts. I believe the kingdom was attempting to use the dragon as a weapon to compete with the infernal empire for control of the weapon industry. Leah shared the information she had received about the dragons. The kingdom probably assumed the dragons wouldn't be able to locate the younglings. Udel of the Sorcerers Guild, who had been silent since the meeting started, finally opened her mouth. It was said that dragons and phoenixes are a race that survived the ancient times, meaning they had been around Azatura for a long time and had seen a lot of things. Moreover, these two races never get along. Do you not find it strange that those two races who are called the monarchs of the sky are siding with an evil queen? Everyone at the round table looked toward Udel with complicated expression on their faces. Then Leah's low voice was heard. It was almost a whisper, as if she didn't want anyone other than them to hear it. There are rumors going around. It started before the evil Queen of Flame destroyed the Infernal Empire's capital. Rumor. Finn frowned. Is it about how the four strongest kingdoms at that time came together to defeat these queens and put an end to their evil deeds, thereby protecting the entire human race? Leah shook her head. No. It's about the Ither Kingdom. What about it? Glyph asked with a frown. Almost all humans knew a little about the Ither Kingdoms, and these four leaders at the round table were no exception. Most information about the Ither Kingdom was buried or hidden by the four kingdoms that took part in the siege, and only material that was deemed beneficial to them was released. Leah shared what she had heard. Centuries ago, the Ither Kingdom was a prosperous land, and this peaceful kingdom had four rulers: Queen Astrid, Queen Gatria, Queen Enwin, and Queen Solal. They believed that the title Majesty belonged solely to the deities they served, thus even though they were queens, they never allowed themselves to be addressed as such. Deities they served? Finn echoed. Yes, Leah nodded. We know that deities blessed these four queens, right? And we were told that they had become evil, consumed by their greed for more power and control, but according to the rumors, these queens coexisted with every race. And then she looked toward Udel, and even blessed the humans with their own essence so they could use the elements of the world to defend themselves from harm and grow. Udel's head looked down. Yes. I heard the same thing, and my people are already looking into it. Pick any long-lived races and ask them what the queens of Ithers were like, and they would tell you they were peaceful beings who protected Azatura and its citizens. And if they were so evil, why haven't the deities withdrawn their blessings? Leah then clenched her hands. Maybe it was not the queen's greed, but the human's avarice that we are all now in this situation. If I was in their shoes and I was imprisoned and used by humans, I would want revenge too. I would want to destroy the humans who killed my people and made me suffer for centuries. Silence fell over the room. After hearing what Leah had to say, everyone became absorbed in their own thoughts. Glyph was the first to break the silence. The Mistress of Flame, Queen Solal, destroyed the Infernal Empire's capital. Then the Mistress of Nature, Queen Gatria, destroyed the kingdom of Tretera. If we follow these patterns, then there are two more kingdoms that will be destroyed. Finn nodded. The Selam Kingdom. Leah exhales heavily. And the Nail Archipelago. Udel suddenly stood up. Both an empire and a kingdom have already fallen. If we want to know where to stand in all these, we must find out the truth. The truth, Glyph muttered under his breath. Leah firmly nodded. What Lady Udel said is true. We must find the truth ourselves and not rely on the rumors. Udel nodded at Leah before excusing herself first. Glyph and Finn then followed with their subordinates, leaving Leah and her people alone in the meeting room. With just themselves in the room, Leah's right-hand man, Alan, casually placed a cup of tea on the table for his lady. My lady, you were amazing today. With a satisfied smile on her lips, Leah looked at the empty seats where the three leaders of the Three-City Alliance estate had been just moments before. I have always been amazing. Of course, my lady. Alan bowed with his eyes gently closed, and when he opened them again, he had a benign smile on his face. Do you think they would heed your words? Leah took a sip of her tea before responding to Alan. Udel and Glyph would. I'm not sure about Finn. You know how merchants are. Only profit could sway those bastards. Alan's benign smile had vanished and his eyes became cold and sharp. If he became a hindrance to our plans, he will be disposed. Leah continued Alan's sentence and finished her tea before asking about the documents they plan to scatter all over Azatura. How's the production? We will finish everything within a week, my lady. Good and our queen? A bright smile appeared on Alan's face. I believed Her Highness is on the way to the sacred forest. Leah's expression softened and her eyes watered at the mention of their queen. I want to see Her Highness so badly. It had been so long. Leah took a deep breath and controlled her overflowing emotions. but it's not the right time yet. We have work to do. Alan firmly nodded and watched his lady hit her aching heart. Leah stood up and started walking out of the room with her subordinates. Have you contacted Warlords Hackeran's right-hand man in Adral? Yes, my lady. I have told them about the other descendants of Sapphire's plan to invade Adral. Even when Jerk had been captured, they continued their voyage. I told Lord Gabin that the enemies will arrive on ships. I believed they were already preparing, and it seemed that they were curious about our identities, my lady. Leah shook her head. They are trustworthy, but our identity must remain hidden to freely navigate behind the curtains. But if you think their forces are not enough, you may send some of our warriors. Just make sure they are wearing their protective necklace to not be weakened by the moonlight stone if the enemies were carrying any. Yes, my lady. Leah subconsciously touched the pendant of her necklace hidden under her clothes as she continued to walk toward her office. The pendant was a device specially crafted to absorb the effect of the moonlight stone. Of course, it could not fully negate that damn stone, but it could somehow block it with a set duration of time. Alan, yes, my lady. Any update on our Black Sunner investigation? Unfortunately, we still haven't found anything related to it. That did not deter Leah. Keep looking. Yes, my lady. Resting only at night, Gatria and Plume continued their travel to the sacred forest in the basilisk-back eras. The basilisk could only maintain non-stop flight throughout the day because of Gatria's essence that continuously enters its body for energy. Eras was going so fast that they caught up with Vago that looks exhausted outside Castatava. Your Highness, Grath, who was controlling Vago's direction, shouted in exhilaration when he saw Gatria riding on the basilisk's back. Gatria hurriedly pointed to the ground when she saw Trevin's condition and shouted so her voice could be heard. Land! Grath obeyed Gatria's words and landed Vago on the barren land. Gatria couldn't wait for Eras to land beside Vago. She just jumped off to get to Trevin fast. There was a resounding thud as Gatria landed on the ground and dust almost covered her entire body at the impact, but Gatria couldn't care less. She immediately ran toward Vago to check Trevin's condition. Trev. Gatria's hand slightly trembled after feeling Trevin's skin. It was burning. Grath rode the basilisk with Plume. While saying that, she touched Vago and imbued it with her essence before getting on Vago's back. Zerk, will you please fly Vago? I will use my essence on Trevin, but it could only make him feel a little better at best. Zerk nodded and let Trevin lean on Gatria's chest. You're going to be fine. Gatria's voice slightly trembled as she hugged Trevin from behind and imbued his body with her essence. This is all I can do, I'm sorry. Egatria continued imbuing Trevin with her essence while extending her essence to Vago and Eros as well to hasten their travel to the sacred forest. They only stopped and rested when necessary. However, Gatria never rested, not even during the night. She continued imbuing essence to the unconscious Trevin because that was the only thing that's keeping Trevin alive. Gatria's worry and fear finally subsided on the 11th day as they passed the town of Ashmire. The sacred forest. Finally, they could already see the forest, but it was still some distance away. It was likely that they would get there after the sun had set, and Gatria's estimation was spot on. As the sun starts to set on the horizon, they finally passed the outer part of the sacred forest. It's where the elven warriors start their patrol. It was one of their duties. However, the elves had suddenly forgotten their duties when a wyvern and a basilisk dove into the forest, and a woman overflowing with the essence of nature landed on the forest's ground with a resounding thud. Where's Solal? The nearest elf subconsciously answered, but Gatria was not asking the elves. She was asking the trees. The elves also realized this when the trees started swaying back their trunks and branches as if to make way for the woman. One elf on the back whispered while watching Gatria ran with the same speed as the flying wyvern beside her. The queen, that's the queen. The elf beside him who heard it had wide eyes. The queen is back, the mistress of nature. It's Queen Gatria Valen Balsatra. The leader of that patrol squadron raised his voice, informed the king. At the same time, Gatria and their two beasts' companions continued to follow the path the trees created for them. Grath and Plume couldn't hide their amazement seeing Gatria run beside the flying basilisk and wyvern with ease. It was as if she was gliding. Zerk would have been amazed as well, but he was cradling Trevin in his arms, his gaze never leaving Trevin's pale face while whispering, "You'll be okay, you'll be okay." Zerk didn't want to lose someone he cared about again. He just realized that when Jerk told him to suppress Trevin's arcane weapons ability and help him defeat Gatria. These were the nice people he traveled with. He didn't mean to, but he somehow ended caring about these people. And after losing his whole family, he didn't want to lose anyone anymore. "I can smell the sea," Grath exclaimed. Gatria started to smile. "We're getting close. It's too dark." Plume wanted to use her flame, but she might accidentally set the forest on fire. Gatria heard Plume and used her essence to grow flowers on their path that glowed in the dark. And traversing the entire forest would probably take someone a whole month or more while following the trail to not be lost. That's how big it was. However, thanks to the trees guiding Gatria and her group, and giving them the shortest way possible towards Solal with their speed, they would probably reach the port where Solal was before the sun rises in the sky. Without stopping, they continued moving along the trail the trees had created. At some point, Gatria went back to riding on Vago's back to imbue more essence on Trevin. Everyone was so focused on reaching their destination as fast as they could that they did not notice the sun rising on the horizon. Only when they finally emerged from forest and onto the cliff overlooking the port did they realize that the sun was already out, that they had traveled all day and all night nonstop. Solal, forgetting about her fear of height, Gatria leaped down from Vago's back toward the shore below with Trevin in her arms. The whole shore quaked at the impact of Gatria's landing with a resounding sound that the people on the shore thought they were under attack. Until the dwarves who were having breakfast in the already finished boat spotted the mistress of nature carrying Lord Trevin. "It's Queen Gatria, inform Queen Solal." But Gatria was faster than the dwarves and run toward the tent where she could feel Solal. Gatria was thankful when she reached the tent, and it was already prepared for Trevin, and Solal was waiting for them with Hakarin. "Thank the deities," were the words that came out of Gatria's mouth after putting Trevin on the bed and watching Solal get to work. "Asdclibcc."